Hey everybody, welcome to Moment of Clarity. Thanks for joining me again, and I'm glad you guys have been liking it. Thank you for all the comments, and we give away a free download of the comedy special every week. If you leave a comment, you'll be entered to win that. Anyway, let's get into it. I want to talk about something that's not in the news, which seems odd for a topical show to be like, this is not in the news at all. But I want to talk about it because it's not in the news. What the fuck happened with Jeffrey Epstein? Where is it? Where is that story? It used to be here. Do you remember? There was a whole summer. There was a couple of weeks this past summer where we were like, Jeffrey Epstein, every fucking channel, Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Remember that? And now, gone. Over. Done with. Mainstream media couldn't, if you were to say his name, they'd be like, the who? The what? Just absolutely out of the... And they can't argue that it's just because he's dead or supposedly dead or, living on an island somewhere after faking his death or whatever you believe happened there. They can't just argue that it's because he's gone that this story is over. This story is crazy and continues to be crazy. And for the few people that continue to cover it, the few investigative journalists that actually are willing to keep looking into it, it just keeps unraveling and getting fucking more bizarre. I want to go through a little bit of it. This isn't going to be everything, obviously. So, you can go read some articles. Mint Press has been doing some good articles over there about the details of what the fuck went on with Jeffrey Epstein's life. As I did in a video prior, Moment of Clarity video, but this was back when it was being talked about, back right after he killed himself in jail. At least we're told he killed himself apparently very violently with by hanging himself in a way that broke many bones in his neck. And anyway, that's not the point of this video though. The point of this video is everything else that happened in his life. And the mainstream media is acting like this is over, that this is done, that we should never mention it again. But in fact, it's quite the opposite. This showed just a massive sex trafficking ring. That's a given, right? That's not even being denied by anybody. You have Bill Clinton rode on his plane, which was known as the Lolita Express, 26 times, many of those times having gotten rid of his Secret Service detail. Donald Trump had a court case against him, accusations of rape, a rape case against him in court that was ultimately dropped. This is about 2 years ago, right when he was running for president. Ultimately, the woman, who I think remained anonymous, dropped the case. But the case had to do with Donald Trump raping a young girl, underage girl, at an Epstein party. So you have the Trump connection, and of course I've read on the show Trump's quotes about how much he loves Epstein, great guy. He likes young women. Oh, does he, Donald? Does he? And so you got the Trump connection. You have Alan Dershowitz involved. You have Acosta, who was Trump's labor secretary, who created that sweetheart deal. So I think that's part of the reason the mainstream media was willing to really get into this, to sink their teeth into this initially, is because they were able to make it about Trump's labor secretary, who ultimately resigned. And whereas now, It doesn't have as much allure to them because it's not about Trump. Most of what's going on now with Jeffrey Epstein is about many other people. And he's got more connections, it seems, with Bill Clinton than he has with Trump, although he was connected to both of them. But so you had Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, who was his... There's a discussion as to what to call her, but she was his madam in a lot of ways. She set up these young girls to be with Epstein on a regular basis. She was seen everywhere with him back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Clearly, some sort of connection between them that people continue to try to figure out. And she's still running around, by the way. She's still out there. So it's not like this court case should be over. And it's not. The victims continue to be seen in court, but our mainstream media are just done with it, just done with the story, as if they want to cover it up. They want to leave it behind. When it had to do with Trump, okay, but now not so much. But there's also, and again, this is reporting over at Mint Press, connections to Mossad that Epstein had. Mossad is Israel's national intelligence agency, basically their CIA, who and Mossad's had their fucking dirty little fingers in everything. But recently, the former senior executive for Israel's Directorate of Military Intelligence, Ari Ben-Menash, said Epstein and Maxwell were working with Mossad, with Israel, as early as the 1980s. This is a former higher up in the Israeli Defense Force, basically, who has come out and said this in an interview, and you can read more about it at Mint Press. So clearly there's connections to Israel, to Mossad here. And many have said this is what Epstein was running, besides just sex with young girls, was a high-powered blackmail ring, an extortion ring, where they would get very high-powered, powerful people, the higher echelons of our society. They would arrange for them to sleep with these young girls, and then they'd have that all over. They could hold that over them forever. People as high up as Bill Clinton. So I think there's questions as to how much that can be proven, but they should keep covering it, right? That's what, if these were legitimate media outlets, our mainstream media, then they would keep covering this story and they'd keep getting more information about it. Instead, they're just done with it. They moved on. But, there's so much more that could be learned by continuing to follow this story. In terms of the blackmail, one of the biggest characters that seems to be brought forward a lot is Prince Andrew, British royalty. And he clearly had a relationship, a connection to Epstein. And apparently the British tabloids and things had been following this for years, leading up to what happened recently with Epstein arrested and then killing himself. They'd been following it for years with Prince Andrew. However, as Mint Press is reporting, many of those articles from the early 2000s and throughout are now being scrubbed from the internet. These articles that were showing a connection between Prince Andrew and this shady Epstein guy who seems to have some connection to hedge funds, but that doesn't really explain where he has enough money, because he's not like an active hedge fund manager, really. So it's like, where does he have enough money to buy islands and shit? And so there's a question as to where his money came from. And now, can that money be grabbed by the court system and given to the victims? But, it's quite an understandable belief that maybe that money came from blackmailing people, or a lot of it. So Prince Andrew, he has lawsuits against him, by the way, by at least one of the women that he slept with, although when they're underage and part of a sex trafficking ring, that's not called sleeping with, that's called rape. So there's a court case ongoing against Prince Andrew, and of course he denies it all, just to be clear. He has said none of it's true. But it's really interesting that the latest thing is that these articles are now being scrubbed out off the internet, older articles about Prince Andrew connection to Epstein. There's just a lot to go on. There's a lot of pieces here, and I just wanted to do this segment to say, what the fuck? Where is it? Where is the coverage? How dare they? And this is almost worse than when they just don't cover something at all. Like basically, with the exception of a very occasional blip, they don't cover, the dire circumstances of Palestinians, let's say, for instance, or the way our economic sanctions in Syria are killing Syrians. That they don't cover almost at all. It's one thing when it's just like, our mainstream media doesn't do that. They won't discuss this. They will not mention this. They will not get into this. But it's another thing when they did wall-to-wall coverage on Jeffrey Epstein for fucking weeks, and now it's gone. It's gone, and they don't want to look more into it, and they don't want to, they're not, it's like they can't say, that doesn't matter, it's not important, because you already showed us it's important. You already covered it for 2 weeks, and now, hands clean, out. We're out. It was getting to the bottom of this was getting too gruesome, so we're done. Anyway, I just want to say, fuck you, mainstream media. fuck you for leaving this story out and wiping your hands of it. Couple of quick things. I am performing in Toronto in a couple of weeks, but there's only like 7 tickets left, I think, to both shows are almost sold out. So if you want those last 7 tickets, now's the time to get them. Maybe by the time you're watching this, they're gone. But leecamp.com/schedule, and you can see if your city is on my tour schedule. You can vote for your city to be added. This might be the first time I'm actually mentioning this, so this may be the big announcement that I have a book coming out of my columns, my articles. It will come out, I think, not until February, March. But the tour that I will be setting up connected to the book will be set up soon. So if you want to vote for your city to be added to that tour, then please go over to leecamp.com, click the schedule tab, vote for your city. Also join the email list and make sure we aren't in your spam filter, because people are telling me that apparently I am blacklisted. So Google's putting me all in all of my emails in your spam filter, or telling you it's a phishing scam. I send an individual email to someone. It's a phishing scam. Is it, though? Is it really? Yeah. You really think I'd send my dick pics as part of a phishing scam? No, these were legitimate dick pics sent to someone as a form of revenge. Not even a romantic dick pic, just a fuck you dick pic. Sometimes you got to do those. Sometimes you got to say, hey, deal with this. I'm kidding. I would never do that. All right. Keep fighting.